live? Oh, I'm frozen. No, we are live. Okay, I was frozen for a second there. Hello, happy Tuesday, besties and bosses. Happy December. We are in the home stretch of the year. I think yesterday I put something on Instagram that said we are 23 days out to the end of the year, which means today is 22 days, which is also one of my favorite numbers. So that's pretty fun, and I can actually see me in the Facebook group, so I can see our comments. I feel like all the things are working today. This is very, very exciting. I've got a good conversation for us today that I'm excited to talk about. I know the title is 90 views to 944K. Yes, just under a million views in 1 week in my client's visibility strategy. But even if you are not using online strategy, even if you're not like playing with reels, this conversation will apply to you. So that title is Real Client Result. We're going to be talking about more of the practical strategy, not like if you're just looking at reels on Instagram, for example. So we're going to break that down today. Before we dig into all the things, a couple announcements. If you're live, say hi. Let me know how you're doing. I'm doing really well. I'm sure you can see. It's at my birthday, so I've got all the flowers behind me. I've got more bouquets in the other room, so I'm like feeling the abundance of flowers. I told one of my clients today, I totally manifested this. I wrote in my journal a couple of weeks ago, I was like, when I have fuck you money, I'm just gonna have all the flowers because I just love flowers so much. And I was just like thinking about that, kind of let it go. I feel like there's such a manifestation lesson in this. And there's more bouquets in the other room. It was just like, it was wild within a week how, I mean, obviously it's my birthday, but I don't usually get flowers for my birthday. It was just wild to me. I think there's really something in that we forget sometimes, how we manifest things, and whether you believe in manifesting or not, kind of fun. Hi, Emma, nice to have you on. Nice to see you. Okay, announcements, and I'll dig into the conversation. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be like chatty Kathy today. And I apologize for Kathys out there. There's nothing wrong with being a Kathy or chatty, but we've got stuff to talk about today. So 2 announcements. One, if you are live, I really love having you live. So first and foremost, thank you. It means so much to me. It makes the conversation so much more fun when I get to hear what's landing for you. And if you have questions, say hi. You will be entered. We always do a giveaway. In 2 weeks, our last live of the year. No, next week I have a giveaway for everyone who joins live. The giveaway at the end of the year, I think, is actually a special strategy session to prep you for the year ahead, which I don't always offer, just so you know what's coming up. Today we are giving away a copy of my self-study course, Content That Stands Out and Sells. It is a course clients, past people have bought, because I sell it, have used and literally used that and turned their business into 10K months. I think what's great about this course is it's much more, if you know me and you know my work, I like to really focus on the practical foundational aspects of strategy versus trends and kind of tricks and hacks that are still important to know, but that are more of the moment. This course is more the practical foundational principles of content that converts and brings in those connections that turn into clients. So it is an older program of mine, but I think what's great is it really is that foundational piece that will work for you, whatever platform you're on, and whether you are doing reels on Instagram or posting on LinkedIn. So we will give away one of those today. If you are, again, live, like Emma just said hi, say hi. Let me know. If you're live later, let me know, and we will pick a winner at the end of our conversation today. It's not the announcement. We did have a birthday giveaway with sessions. Team is picking those winners probably as we speak. That closed at 3 p.m. If you missed your chance on that, I do have a coaching intensive available this month. Only one because it's a full month, and yes, I have clients taking time off this month, but it's still a pretty full month, and I'm also taking some time off. We are opening up one, and I still have one coaching intensive available. This is so great for you if you're really looking at not just the end of the year, but really looking at wanting to set up a solid strategy, whether that's more around your visibility, your messaging, your marketing, or your sales and conversions for next year, or if you're looking more at your offer suite and your customer journey going into that. If you want to pick a specific part of your strategy so that you can really start 2024 off strong and know exactly what you're focused on to set yourself up for those consistent 10K, 20K, whatever that is for you, months in business. Maybe it's 100K months. This is a great, yes, it's not as in-depth as my ongoing coaching, but I just finished a intensive with a new client, and within the intensive itself, we mapped out a brand new offer, a new marketing strategy for that. She's already booked 2 people into the new offer, and it's less, I think she did that within a week of the intensive, so she more than made back her intensive investment within a couple days of the investment itself. So just to let you know what's possible in that. Yes, it is a short I guess, sprint, so to say, but we can do quite a bit in that time and cover quite a bit of ground. So I have one of those available. I love getting to do them. I obviously love getting to work one-on-one with my people and have that long-term relationship to support them through the whole thing. But this is what we've got available for you right now. And I will drop a link for a consultation for you. Or if you prefer to have more of a coaching chemistry fit test, I will drop a link for a mini coaching session so we can see if we're a fit and talk about that. Okay, those are all the announcements. Let's talk visibility strategy. So let me preface this a little bit and why I want to have this conversation. One of my clients came to a call, actually a couple things here I think that are helpful to know, because I said this at the beginning of the live stream, but for those of you who are just hopping on, yes, we're talking visibility strategy. Yes, I'm going to be talking some specifics in terms of kind of what's working online, but we're also going to talk more of the mindset around visibility as well. And this will be relevant for you whether or not you're an online or offline business, whether or not you're really leveraging social media and whatever platform you're on, because I think the lessons behind this client's result are really universal. We're just seeing them through a specific result. And I think that's so often the case. A lot of what I look at with clients and what I'm always supporting clients with is what is the right strategy for them and their business, and not just having everyone in a cut and paste formula. I literally have clients who have scaled to $1 million business, have scaled their businesses to $1 million using Instagram. And I have a client who's about to cross the $1 million mark this year who's barely using social media. And what is similar is always the clarity of their offer and offer suite, the clarity of their messaging, the mindset we're working on, how they're thinking about their business like a CEO, running their business like a business, and finding a specific strategy that works for them. That's always similar, but the way that actually looks to you and I, if we're just like, what are they actually doing day to day, looks so different. So what I always want to give you is more what is the commonalities that you can then apply personally to your business. So I hope that will be valuable for you. Claire, oh, hi Kim, so great to catch you. Those flowers in the background are so beautiful. Thank you. I had it in the so there. I was saying, I manifested a ton of flowers. I have more bouquets in the other room, and I'm just loving all the flowers right now. It was my birthday, so that's why all the flowers, but I do feel like I absolutely manifested them because I was journaling my desire for an abundance of flowers without even thinking about it, and got all these bouquets. Anyway, going back to our strategy here. So one of my clients co-owns and co-runs an offline business. So it's a brick and mortar business, it's offline. And I think this is actually helpful to know for some of the nuances we're going to talk about. But again, just because I think so often we think you can only get big results and you can only make money if you, like just the few things we see online, right? If you have a group program, a group coaching program, and I have clients who have that. I just have a client who sold out her group coaching program using offline marketing. So I think that's always interesting as well. This client has an offline brick and mortar business. She's a co-owner in it, and she came to one of our calls, and they've been looking at bringing more visibility and brand awareness online. So we were taking a look at her strategy around that. We were taking a look at her account and the metrics she had, and she had about an average of 30 to 50 views per post and per reel, which was actually, for the number of followers this company has, made complete sense. I don't ever know like what the true stats are and what to believe, because I think the numbers change, but I think overall what I've heard is if you're getting between like 8 to 10% of your audience viewing your post, at least on Instagram, that's like pretty standard. Anything above that, you're kind of blowing it out of the water, but your content's never going to be seen by 100% or even probably 50% of your audience, at least on Instagram, definitely in Facebook groups. I think it's really that way on all social media platforms, which is maybe just a helpful thing for everyone to know so you're not making yourself wrong when you're looking at metrics, or if you're playing that awful game of comparing your metrics to someone else's. So they wanted to create more brand awareness. They wanted to create more visibility, particularly in their area. And so we were taking a look at that. And so within a week with what we worked on, her views, this is actually, like I have the post from her where she's just like, what the fuck? Went from an average of 30 to 50 views to 944K, not 944. We're talking just under a million, 944,000. Am I saying that even right? Just under a million views. I think that was the last time I checked. I don't know if they got more than that. The number's kind of irrelevant, but I didn't even do the stats on this, but that is an incredible jump. And it I think is just really interesting to see, oh, there's something to this shit works. And so that's what I want to talk about today. What was the visibility strategy? We talked about what were the specifics that you can apply, whether you're an online or offline business, whether you are LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook groups, right? What we're going to talk about today is true across the board. And what I do not want you to get hung up on in this conversation is, okay, and now the metric to chase is you're going to go and I always do the math in ChatGPT, that you're going to go find out what's the percentage increase from 50 to 944K, and that's the goal to go after, because this example did that. That's not the point at all. The point is, what we're talking about here, the reason I'm sharing those numbers for you is just so that you can see there is, because I think sometimes, particularly with some of the mindset pieces, it can almost feel like fluff and like, okay, Kim, like you manifested some fucking flowers and here's some mindset around visibility, but like, what's the practical strategy she did? And I'm going to talk about that as well, but I want you to see what an exponential growth jump leap trajectory is, because the reason for that is because you can do the practical strategy. And if you're missing the mindset piece, and what she shifted is, I believe, a big part of what allowed for such a like wild jump in views and reach. So hopefully that makes sense why we're talking about that. Claire says, congratulations, that's amazing. Oh wow, sending oh my God, happy birthday. I don't know why these come in late. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Thank you very much. And yeah, it's fun. Actually, this is something I'm going to share this at the end. I also have something to share about those numbers, because they are amazing and I am so proud of her, and it was so fun. And it's also just like a fun thing. It's fun to see when you take something and you implement it, to see those results. But I'm also going to share why those are exciting, and also they didn't necessarily blow up her account and blow up their business. I'll share it now, because they're a brick and mortar business, which means they're a local business. And so yes, that brand awareness, that is only going to help them, but it's not like even a fraction of those people live where their company is. And so I think we're going to go back to the visibility, but maybe this is helpful to hear. One of the things we actually had in our most recent calls that I was telling her is like, this is great, but I don't want you focusing on Instagram. There are other things in your business right now where you're actually getting clients and client delivery that is so much more important. And so this is fun, and let's keep doing this, and this is working for you. But it's not like now that she had that growth, we're like, let's quadruple down on Instagram, because that's still not where 99% of the sales and revenue in the business are coming from. It does not mean this isn't part of the long-term brand awareness strategy and growth strategy. But I share that because I think it's very easy when we're talking about these sorts of metrics to almost get focused on the wrong thing in your business and to lose the plot. So to say, that being said, why this is such an important conversation is visibility is the first ingredient in your customer journey and what makes you consistent revenue in your business. Before your customer journey can work, before, I call it words that sell, before your messaging can work for you, before your sales calls can work for you, before your conversion event can work for you, before your landing page can convert for you, right? Before any of that can work for you, you have to be visible to your people. If you're not visible, and we're not thinking about a visibility strategy and the mindset behind it, you can spend all of your time on making the best course and program and the best landing page, and that's not going to bring dollars into your business. That being said, just because you get super visible, that does not necessarily mean that's the only thing that is going to bring in dollars in your business. So hopefully that nuance makes sense. So let's talk mindset first, because I'm gonna share some of the practical strategy pieces as well. I promise I will give you some of those nuances in terms of what we focused on to help her have that shift in growth. But let's talk about the mindset piece as well. And I think what feels important to say here, and maybe this is helpful for everyone, what I give this client a lot of credit for is she brought this to our call. She was very clear and specific what she wanted to focus on, but she was also very open and coachable and neutral through this. I think part of the reason she was able to have this growth is when we were talking, I made her pull up her account. I looked at some things. We were talking about a couple things that were a little bit more emotionally challenging, but she was very open to that. And I think had she not been, it's not that she couldn't have grown, but I think it would have been, it would have just been a different result in the end, because we did have to unpack a couple of pieces for this visibility. So I feel like this is like if I was gonna say like this is the thing that blows up a business when it comes to visibility at least, and that makes a bigger difference than I like hate using those superlatives because it's like there's never one thing that blows up a business or that creates results. But one of the biggest things I'm supporting clients with, and that I notice and that I've seen in myself when I take a look at my strategy has not changed that much. When I take a look at when I was making $800 a month and now making 30 to 40K cash months, like what's one of the big differences? And of course there's not one thing. There are lots of things. But one of those things is I hid in plain sight. I talk about this a lot, but I was consistent. I was showing up. I was sharing content. I was doing all the right things. I was selling. I was like checking everything off the to-do list. If anything, I was working far harder than I am now, right? Like it wasn't like I wasn't doing the things. And yes, of course, my content and my messaging, everything has improved and been up-leveled and been refined because I've been in business for 7.5 years. But also I think the online space was in some ways less crowded and it was a little easier to sell then. And yet I'm having better results now. But one of the big shifts I had to make, one of the big shifts I was talking about with my clients is I had to go from doing all of the things, but a big part of me, if I'm really honest, that first year in business, I wanted the clients because I love what I do. Like I started this business because I want to coach, full stop, right? I love money and all of that, but I didn't start this business to leave a 9 to 5 or because I don't know, because I hated what I was doing or anything like that. I started this business because I love to coach and I love the power of coaching. It changed my life. I think I'm a damn good coach and like nothing makes me happier in work. I mean, things outside of work obviously make me happy, but then being able to support people and to see those transformations and being a part of that journey. So that's why I started this business. So that I didn't have a challenge with, but I did not want to be seen online. I posted, but if I was really honest with you, I kind of hoped no one would see my content. I was scared when I posted in another Facebook group that the owner of the group would see that and think I was like trying to poach clients or steal their thunder, or that they wouldn't like what I was saying, or that I was like, I mean, fill in all the noise there. But the truth is like, I kind of didn't want to be seen. I like wanted the result of being seen, but I didn't actually want to be seen. And I was really good at, I call it fake vulnerability. And I think I'm quite an authentic person. I don't think I was being fake intentionally, but I had sort of nailed like what were the safe things to be vulnerable and share, and what are all the things that actually I need to share but I wanted to hide, which for me particular, and this is similar with my client, but for me in particular, those were more things, we've talked about this in different ways in this group before, so this won't be new news to some of you, but for me it was more things like taking it, like that I'm good at what I do and that I'm smart and that I'm a damn good strategist and that I'm really good at mindset coaching, right? Those things, it is vulnerable to say, hey, I'm good at what I do. It is vulnerable to take up space. It is vulnerable to own your work. I think for most people in this group, I would wager a guess that it is more vulnerable to be seen for your greatness, to be in your power, to own that, to be in the spotlight, than it is to share vulnerably about some of the hard challenges you've gone through, right? I had no problem sharing content about the things I'd struggled through or what was hard, because to me, that's like, I can connect with you. I can say, look, we're alike, right? I'm not like taking up too much space or ruffling too many feathers, but to say, actually, like, here's what I'm great at, that was very, very, very uncomfortable for me. And I was just talking about this with a client today. Be so curious for those of you watching, you'll have to let me know if you feel like sharing that. But one of my clients and I were talking about that today, and I think it can be very confronting that standing in, owning your power can be quite challenging. So one of the things I worked on with this client, one of the things we were talking about when I was doing an audit of her content, I was like, look, your content's great. It's not that there's anything wrong. I can see why you have 30 to 50 views. Like, people like it. It's just quite honestly, and this is why I say I give her a lot of credit because she was very willing to be coached. It's just very vanilla. It's very safe. It's very, not copycat in that she was copying other people, but just I see an idea. This is a way to do a reel. Like, this is a way to put content out. It is checking the box. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you want to be visible, if you want to be seen, if you want to grow an audience, if you want more success, if you want the kind of visibility that takes you from 50 views to just under 1 million, and what that can do for your business on the back end, the truth is we have to be willing to be seen, and we have to want to be seen. And when I was talking with her around this, and I think there's no way, I think none of this is personal, like this could be any one of my clients. So I think this is very much keeping her anonymous. But the truth is she wanted the visibility results, but she didn't really want to be seen. She wasn't even showing her faces on her face. She has one face, not faces, but she didn't even want to show her face. And one of the other things we were taking a look at is when we were looking at her content, what was the outlier content that was getting more reach. And she had one post, it was kind of a pop, I think it had like a 500 reach, and it was something where it was a lot more vulnerable, it was a lot more personal, and she was sort of like having this fight in her brain if she wanted to share this other very sort of like how to very surface level, very safe content. Like that's what she wanted to build the brand personality and brand like messaging around. And the conversation we were having, I'm like, look, we can do that, but your audience is telling you what they want from you. Your audience will always tell what they want from you. They are very, very clear. And I think it makes sense because all of this is essentially you hiding in plain sight. All of this is you still showing up, right? And that's why I call it hiding in plain sight. You're still showing up. You are still in plain sight. You're just hiding all of the magic. You're hiding all of the goodness. You're hiding all of the things that make your content potent, that make people just fall in love with you and your work. And I was like, all of this is hiding in plain sight content. It is perfectly fine, but also we could just like plug this into ChatGPT and it could give it to us, and there's nothing wrong with it. But no one here wants content where we're like, there's nothing wrong with it, right? The content that grabs people's attention, and this is on or offline, right? If you're speaking, I have a client who gets all of her clients from speaking, or the majority, I shouldn't say all, but 80% of her clients, we did the stats on this, so I think it's actually about 80% of her clients come from speaking. And we've talked about this a lot, and where she's seen a big shift is exactly this. And for her, like, you would never think someone's hiding in plain sight when they're speaking, right? You're on stage, you're taking up space, like you're sharing all of these things, but we've really taken a look at what are the topics she's speaking to, and what are the topics that she's willing to lean into. And she's made such a huge arc in terms of sort of having the like safe, surface level, perfectly valuable, perfectly good speaking topics that still bring in some leads, to finding things that are a little bit edgier, that are things she actually really wants to speak to and that she really believes in, that are part of her mission, and that are vulnerable in that way of like, it's not like her dark, deep secrets. I think we hear vulnerable and we think that means share your dark, deep secrets. I say vulnerable more in that this is the stuff she's like, am I allowed to talk about this? This is the stuff she's really good at. This is the stuff she really believes, but it's not what the rest of her industry is saying. That shift, what we had to do is allow her to do the work, the internal work, to want to be seen, right? Because the other stuff is like, you're being seen, but you're not really allowing yourself to be seen. You're just you're being seen and you're hiding in plain sight, essentially, as opposed to I am like exposing myself and letting myself be seen. It has made her talks and her speaking completely transform and change the type of clientele she's bringing in. It's allowing her to command a higher price point. I have examples on this for days. I'll give one last quick example here. The first client I coached who scaled to $1 million. This was in my first year of business, which I always share this because it cracks me up, because I'm helping someone scale to $1 million. And one of the things we worked on, it was helping them not hide in plain sight and literally lean into them wanting to be seen and them wanting to own and speak to the topics they really believed in, that were really potent, that were really edgy. And it helped them to land some really big stages. And there were other nuances that strategy-wise that led to them blowing up to $1 million, but they went from about 10K months to $1 million while we were working together. And here I am, I'm like making, at this point, probably like $800 to $2,000 a month. And it just cracks me up because I'm like, okay, you can see this in someone else, but I did not want, I fought it so hard, which is why I give my clients so much credit, because you can see this, but that doesn't mean it's always so easy. But that's also why I know that's just it's like the switch, and it's the switch that blows up your visibility. It can blow up your results. But the difference, think about a switch. A switch is a light switch, right? You can be in the same room doing the same thing, but if I have the light switch off and the lights are off and it's dark, no one can see what you're doing. If we just flip the switch where you want to be seen and you want to be in the light, that changes everything. So this was one of the things we worked on, and we had to dig into just allowing it to be safe for her to both show her face. And so the reel that blew up was her showing her face, but also for her to get clear on what is the brand persona she wanted to share. And to, I think one of the challenges for most business owners with showing your face online, like, let's just be honest, especially if, I don't know if this is just a female thing. I think my male clients have the same thing, but I think there is a little bit of like, do I look okay? Or like, does that mean I'm gonna have to put my makeup on, or just all of the things. And this client is a busy parent and also running a busy, successful company. And so one of the things we had to talk about was not only the visibility piece and wanting to be seen, but wanting to be seen for who she really is in terms of how she actually is day to day when she was running her business, as opposed to like the polished, perfected version of her that like only happens when she goes to an event or something like that. And we really had to spend some time looking at, and I reflect this here because I think this is something that's really important for most people to hear. One of the things we were talking about, I've actually pulled up Sarah Blakely, who's the owner, the founder of Spanx, for those of you who don't know. I think she has a really great account to look at because she is a gazillionaire, very successful. I think she's very mission driven. I think she has a great product and a great business, but I think she's also a very smart CEO with very good values. But I think what she does a really great job of is she's very aware of who her audience is, what her brand persona is, what she wants you to know about her as a person, and showing up in the way where you feel like you know her. You feel like she's your friend. You feel like sometimes you see her with her kids and you're like, oh, I'm like at her house with her. Like, it actually feels like you know her and you could be friends with her. And bringing it back to this client, we were talking about one of the strategies for their company is how important it is for like wanting me very mindful here that I don't share anything that is anonymous for who this client is, but without giving details, what's important is the connection and the like the safety and trust with their company, and particularly her and the other owner of the company. And I was saying, like, this is a big part of offline, like some of the strategies we've been employing so that you're the company that's chosen locally. And if you're just presenting yourself as polished and putting all this effort into that and then also not doing your job, not only is that going to make it harder to show up and to be consistent if that's not who you are from day to day, but it's not going to be congruent if someone hires you and that's not how you show up. But it's also not solving for the whole reason we're doing this online in the first place. It's just another form of hiding in plain sight. And look, I'm someone who always does my hair and always does my makeup. Even if I'm at home with my husband on a Saturday and I'm just going to be in my pajamas all day long, I will still do my hair and makeup. So you will probably always see me in hair and makeup. But that's actually not even true, because when I leave the gym, I will do a story with no makeup and things on there because I don't really care. But in terms of the congruence factor, but with her, and I want to be mindful I don't go off on like too many tangents, we had to look at how do we create safety around her wanting to be seen for who she really is, and making that link that that's the part that was going to connect her to her people and build the very trust and relationship and likability. We wanted, she doesn't have a company like Sarah Blakely's at all, she's not Spanx, but what that brand is doing is the same goal we have for her brand and for her marketing. It's that feeling for people to be like, oh my gosh, we could be like best friends. Like, I know her. We could totally hang out, have a glass of wine together. Like, I totally know her and I know her kids. And like, that's the feeling we wanted to have. And that is tough to create if you're hiding, if you don't want to be seen, if you're just sharing the how-to content, if you're just sharing the surface level content, and if you're polish is sort of the wrong word, because I don't think there's anything wrong if you're someone who, I'm thinking of my best friend. My best friend is someone who is always super put together, but that's just who she is. But polish in that way of like putting on a polish that isn't who you are from day to day, that's just another form of hiding, and it breaks the visibility barrier. And the reason I'm sharing this is because, again, you can show up and check everything off the to-do list and technically be getting visible. She was doing that. She was getting 30 to 50 views. There is nothing wrong with that. But if you want to have that pop, that blow up, right, and the kind of visibility that, if we're using Sarah Blakely as an example, that is creating that connection where people are like, like, I am just so attracted to this brand, and I, like, not attracted in terms of looks, but attracted in terms of like, I like love this person, like, yes, like that's what has you stand out right now online. I mean, I think that's always what has you stand out. I think that's what has you stand out offline as well, right? My client who's nailing it on stages, right? The difference maker is not the literal visibility, the literal showing up on stage, the literal creating the reel, the literal creating the post. I wrote a post, I think, that went out this week, maybe in the group, and I hate saying this so much, and I hate being the person who's going to say this, but I'm going to say it. It's just simply not enough anymore in our space to just post content and to consider that a visibility strategy, because I don't know that it's ever been, but I think particularly right now, we're already, it's loud, it's noisy. I think the same thing with offline. But if you don't really want to be seen, and if you're hiding and you're seeing it as a checklist item, it's just very hard to create the kind of relationship with people that's going to cause them to want to hire you. I think we sometimes forget, and look, like, this is normal when you're running a business. I mean, sometimes I do think content and marketing becomes a checklist item, but when it comes to visibility and when it comes to what drives someone, like, why are we creating visibility in the first place? It's because it's that first point and that continual point for your customer journey and for your marketing strategy, and what allows someone to know they want to hire you before they even land on your sales page or on a sales call with you. And we forget sometimes the things that cause people to buy, the thing that's going to have someone want to hire you. It's such an emotional, visceral feeling. We buy for emotional reasons. We buy, yes, to avoid pain, to seek pleasure, but also because why do you think branding is know, like, and trust? Because we feel like we know, like, and trust someone, and know and like is what Sara Blakely is doing so well, right? I feel like, oh my gosh, like, I would totally hang out with her, and like, we would have I like her, I trust her, right? I would let her hang out, like, watch my stepson, because I just trust her even though I've never met her, right? It's that feeling, that knowability, that likability, and that trust, especially in a time when we have, I don't even know, like, I think we've been saying there's a mistrust in our industry, but I don't even know that there's still a mistrust in our industry, as much as we are in a time where buyers are very discerning and they have a lot of options. And so when buyers are discerning and when there are a lot of options, right, it is a buyer's market, not a seller's market. That's all that means. And this will flip-flop as the economy does, but I think it's helpful to know as a business owner, it's like when you buy houses, right? Like, it's a buyer or seller's market. It just is what it is. We are in a buyer's market. There are more options for people to buy so there's like more people selling than there are buyers, which means it's a buyer's market. During COVID, at the start of COVID at least, it was flip-flopped, right? There were more buyers than sellers. Like, do I have that? Hopefully I'm not mixing that up. So there are more sellers now than buyers. Before, during COVID, it was flip-flopped around. But when that happens, right, we're just going to have people who are more discerning. We've also got a funky economy. We've got some funky things going on in our industry. People are going to be more discerning, and they also have more options to go through. And no matter whether it's a buyer's or a seller's market, we buy based on emotions, and we fill our emotional decisions in with logic. I just bought a very expensive Dyson Airwrap, for any of you who know what that is. Now, I can tell you all of the logical reasons for why I bought that. It's safer for my hair. It's gonna, blah, 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 blah. I can tell you all of the reasons. But I spent more money than I'm like, I cannot believe I spent that much money on a hair tool, as someone who up until then pretty much air dried my hair and put in like a hair air wrap. I cannot, like, I'm almost like, wow, like, this is so fascinating just from a very neutral business perspective to witness myself as a case study. I bought for emotional reasons. The emotional reasons where I got a haircut and then I was like, oh shit, I feel uncomfortable. I don't know how to do my hair. It feels super challenging. I'm really worried about frying my hair off, right? Emotional reasons drove me to make a large purchase that I then justified, defined, filled in with logic, right? That was a pain point. That purchase filled that in. So we want to know that, because going back to visibility, right? If Dyson's on my radar because they were visible to me. Dyson's also on my radar because they're not just visible to me, they're a fucking vacuum cleaning company. They have the best vacuum cleaner ever. We have a Dyson. Another thing where I'm like, I cannot believe a vacuum cleaner costs so much, but it is so darn good. But that would not have been enough visibility to get me to want to spend and invest in a high-end hair tool It's because they also created an emotional connection with me through their marketing, through honestly their word of mouth marketing. And so that's what we want to keep thinking about with visibility. I swear I'm going to share some practical, like more practical strategies, but this is part of the practical strategy. I think just because we talk about emotions and feelings and mindset, we think it's not practical, but this is like 80% of the game. And so this is 80% of what I talked about with my client. So what we saw then is her wanting to be seen, like actually like, and the reason I know she wanted to be seen is she decided on our call. She was like, okay, like she like drew a line in the sand, and it was really cool to watch her like implement, because this happened real quickly for her. But part of that was like, she just made that decision where she's like, I want to be seen, and I want to be seen for me and like me as the brand and the business owner. And she really allowed herself to show up and be seen. And her first reel did not jump, but this happened like within a week. But that difference, it was just fascinating to see how quickly that was attracting people. But with that, she also, and this is a little bit more on the strategy side of things, one of the things we did is get really clear on what her people wanted to see and know about her, like what they wanted to hear from her, what kind of content was connecting. And so we stopped doing the how-to content. There's nothing wrong with how-to content. Your audience will tell you. I think there are, I don't know, if you're like a brand, I've had a client in the past who did more food blogging type stuff, right? How-to might actually be really applicable. Or if you do like, I have a friend who does like organizational stuff, like her, like I could very much see how that could be, like how-to content could do well. So don't hear this as don't do how-to content, like that's not good visibility. But her audience really responded to her bringing in some pieces. And I think this is very generic and doesn't say who it is at all. But about her as a working mama and what it's like being a parent working. Like some of these pieces, like it was very clear when we looked at her content that that's what people wanted from her. And that's also who she is authentically and the stuff she loves to talk about. And it is a big part of her brand. It is a big part of what we knew offline that she was bringing to the table to build that connection point with people. So they were like, that's the company we want to hire because we really know and like her. So that's also when we talk about the visibility, yes, she was literally doing the same strategy in terms of, for her, it was Instagram and Reels, but the difference was she wanted to be seen. And then we looked at strategically and how did she want to be seen? I asked her, what do you want to be known for? But also, what do your people want to know you for? What is that connection point? And that's what we focused the content or the context of her content in those reels around. And that's a big part of what made that leap. And I say that also because I know, particularly with reels, but I think this is across the board, I think the story is right now, if you have a trending audio and hooks, like that's enough to blow up. And I think that is helpful, but I think the mindset, the wanting to be seen, the understanding what you want to be known for and what that connection point for the know, like, and trust is the big differentiator. More so than like anyone can pick a trending audio. That doesn't mean your content's going to blow up. Okay, let me see. Because we're running near time, and I wanted to share just a couple of the practical strategy pieces, but if you have questions, let me know. So where are my notes here? Because I do want to hit on a couple of the specific strategy pieces. So what we were just talking about, just in terms of looking at her strategy in particular, what we talked about, and one of the conversations we were having is that traffic isn't created equally. And what I mean by that is it is great to get 944K views. It is great to get 500 views. But what I want for you in your visibility strategy, what I want for you so that your business can not only be visible, but attract those right fit leads we talk about and warm them up so that you can turn them into right fit clients is, my throat always does this. I think I'm like, I always get like almost like a hiccup or something, which is funny. we want to make sure you're also getting visible in front of the people who are going to be potentially right fit leads and clients. Now, obviously, if you have a post that blows up and you get almost 1 million views, it is very likely that, like I was saying, like not all of those people are going to be potential clients, especially since she's a local business. But even if you're not a local business, if I have a post that blows up and gets 1 million views on Instagram, that is great. And I'm here for it. And in some ways, it possibly doesn't do me, I mean, like, I'm not mad at it, but like a lot of those people are not going to be people who are looking for one-on-one business coaching, and that's okay, right? We're not mad at that. We are here for the visibility. I think there's a lot in terms of audience growth and the engagement, like how that serves you overall. But what we focused on, and I've already spoken to this, but I think it's just helpful to hear, is we were not, this was just like, I can't believe this happened kind of views. We were not chasing a viral big post. What we were really focused on is what, again, is the content that is going to speak directly to your people, that is, yes, you want to be seen, but also how do we get really clear on, and this is such basic business stuff, and I know it's like we almost want to roll our eyes at this shit, and we're like, no, but tell me the magic like hook formula for Instagram or for Facebook. And like, yes, hooks are helpful. I use them too. But what makes a hook work for you? What makes a trending audio work for you? What makes a big jump in views like that is it's knowing your ideal client, it's knowing who your people are, and really knowing them intimately, so that we can take a look at things and say, oh, we know exactly what to speak to in a post, because we know that's the thing your people want, because we know your audience so well that we can even craft a hook that is going to hook someone. And you can't do that if you don't know your people inside and out. And so that's also what we just spent some time revisiting, because she had a general idea, but we really wanted to drill into just so much of the nuances of who are the people that are going to be the best leads and the best potential clients for her company, and how can we really tailor the content for that. And we did get quite specific in terms of a couple types of topics, a couple types of things we're speaking to, and I think that's a big part of why this worked so well for her. I think overall you can be, I was just talking about this with one of the clients I had an intensive with last month. You can be general, right? If there's nothing wrong with that, and some of your content will still perform, and especially if you have a smaller, like a one-on-one business like I do, like I think you can get away with more of that. But if you're really looking to have bigger reach, if you're really wanting to lean into a visibility strategy, and you're really wanting that to support your marketing, I think we are just so in a time of specificity has always been what sells, but we're really being specific in terms of who your people are, knowing them so well, speaking to those, that core message and those couple of core topics makes all of the difference. And so that was a big thing. We just got really strategic on who are her people, what do they want to hear from her, what does she want to be known for, and what does she want to be known for, but also what does she want to teach her people about her as they're getting to know, like, and trust her. And we outlined a couple, like, these are the topics we're going to speak to, in this is how we're going to position them. I know that's a little vague, but everyone's business here is going to be different. So I think that's just something I would be thinking about if I were you. Again, I mentioned this earlier, but I think it's helpful to repeat. We literally looked at the data of what she's already posted as well to see what is the difference between the posts, like the outlier post, what has performed better and why is that? And I think it's helpful because I can take a look and like, these are all great. And like, here's why I think, here's what I think this is telling us. And I think it's helpful to remember these are educated guesses. It's not like we know for sure, but then we tested it and turned out our educated guess was pretty darn spot on there. And then specifically, the other thing we did, because I keep saying like hooks aren't the only thing, we also did really talk about hooks. Now, I think what I would say with hooks is I would think about hooks as, and this is something that's in the content course I'm giving away. There's a whole, I think, like module on this. I think this is just universal, whether you're writing your emails or a post for Facebook or a post for LinkedIn or a advertisement for Google or your website or a social media post for Instagram or a reel, or you're posting a story, like literally any piece of content, your opening line, your subject line for your email and your opening line, your first line, or your hook if it's a reel, right? That is your most valuable real estate in a piece of content, and it is usually the most, it's where people spend the least time paying attention. And I think it really supports your visibility strategy. So we're talking a little bit of content strategy, but I think this is so much about visibility as well, because if you're hiding in plain sight, guarantee you're not paying attention to your opening line, because somewhere, the more you refine that, the more people are going to see you. Or you're pulling back, even if you're focusing on it, you're pulling back in terms of the directness and what you're speaking to in that opening line. This is, if you're a client of mine and I've reviewed your content, one of the things I'm almost always giving feedback on is that opening line, and this is the reason why. Because your opening line, whether it's your email subject line again, or your first line in your social media post, or the hook on a carousel post, or on on a reel, right? That is the line that tells someone this is for you or this isn't for you. Keep paying attention, don't keep paying attention. Stop your scroll, keep on scrolling by. Open this email, don't open this email. Join Kim on this live stream, don't join Kim on this live stream, right? Like that, it is what tells people everything. You can create the best piece of content. You can be like, I want to be seen. I'm ready to be visible. I'm going to be super vulnerable. I'm going to share all the things my people want to hear. I know my ideal client so well. All of the things. But if we are not letting people know that up front, people aren't necessarily going to see the rest of your content. And Alex Hormozi said this on a podcast recently, and I think this is a really great way to think about hooks, or those opening lines. What he said is great content will be seen. And I agree, disagree with that. I'll explain what I mean by that. But he said, but great hooks get decent content seen. And I think that is actually the more important part of this phrase, because ideally for most of you, your main job is not being a content creator and marketer. It's an important part of your business, but for most of you, your main job is being a CEO and serving your clients. And not that I don't want you to be a great marketer, but ideally you've got decent marketing, you've got decent content, and it's decent enough where you don't have to spend all of your time on it, but it is creating the results you want for you. And I don't mean that in a way where I'm like, don't try to have great content, or don't try to have a great marketing strategy, but I think just from a place of, if you're a business owner and a service provider, right, unless you're at a stage where you're paying someone to do this for you, you probably can't spend all of your time and energy on content, and nor would I suggest that if I was coaching you, right? We want decent content that's doing its job so that you can bring in those clients, so you can spend the majority of your time focusing on your clients and doing your work, right? I think I have very valuable content that's as valuable as some paid programs that we give away for free. And I think a lot of our content's also decent, and I'm not like giving myself a hard time. Like, I think that could sound negative, but I just mean it in a neutral way of, and it kind of is intentionally, because if we wanted it to be, even though we put so much focus on it this year, if we wanted it to be like next level, I wouldn't be focusing on my one-on-one clients in the same way, but I need it to be good enough, like better than good, right? Like I need it to be refined and up-leveled and specific and good enough so that it can do its job, especially in our current saturated land space. And like our Alex Hormozi is saying, a good hook can get that decent content seen and give it a lot of traction. And I've just seen that with my own content. Where I'm like, oh, this is so fascinating. We're repurposing a post, but if I just change the opening line, it can perform so much better. Or here's a secret, y'all. The path to consistent 10K months. I think that is one of the best master classes I've taught. It performed really well for us in terms of signups, conversions, landing page, all the things, in terms of clients booked off the back end. I think it is an excellent class. I will drop a link for it. You can still get access to it. We turned it evergreen. I taught a version of that, maybe not last year, the year before, but it just had a different hook. It had a different name. It had different wrapping paper. Maybe that's a different way to think about it. And the change in the wrapping paper is absolutely what made it perform better this way. Yes, maybe I refined the teaching a little bit because I have that much more experience a year or two later. It's probably been 2 years since I've taught that. Sure, I absolutely will not discount that. And every single piece of visibility for that and a piece of marketing for that. We changed the wrapping paper. I focused on the opening line. Every email I revisited the subject line, right? All these were all things I focused on. And so good hooks, good subject lines, good openings, better wrapping paper made, I think it was great. I think it's honestly really great content, but it gave us better results than very similar content previous, like a couple years in the past. And a couple years in the past, when remember, things were converting a lot easier a couple of years in the past. So I think that's actually really interesting to notice. So I do think there is a lot of truth to what Alex Hormozi is saying in terms of great hooks will get decent content seen. And I think that is where, when you're hearing people talk about hooks a lot or subject lines, it can almost sound, I think it can feel a little bro markety and a little boring maybe, I think, for some of my clients. And I would just see it as this is just the way to put your CEO hat on and give something you've probably poured your heart and soul into. If you're at the place where you want to be visible and you're wanting to be vulnerable and you're wanting to create great content, you're wanting to be seen, and you're wanting to connect with people in this way, this is just a really helpful way to actually allow that to be true. And I see it as ownership and taking up space in a way that when you're not focused on that, I think it's a very subtle way to continue to hide in plain sight, because it is just making it harder for people to see your content. Alex Hormozi says great content will be seen. The reason I disagree, I think he's brilliant, but the reason I disagree with that is it's sort of like when I was acting, people were like, well, great actors will get seen in book work. And I think that's just kind of, I think that's unfair. And I think what that does is it makes you, like, if you have great content, it's not being seen. I think it's very easy then to create the story that you're not good enough and you're screwing things up or your content's not great. And I think there are a lot of great, talented content creators, coaches, therapists, designers, actors, musicians, writers who don't get seen, but I think it has more to do with what we're talking about in terms of, but that has more to do with their visibility strategy, right? You can have the best work in the world. If you don't want to be seen and you don't have a visibility strategy, it's going to stay hidden in plain sight or hidden and not in plain sight. So I do kindly disagree with that part of the content, but I do think what he's saying in terms of great hooks help it to be seen. I do think that is very true. So a lot of what we played with then is kind of like pulling this all together strategically. We then, first she had to want to be seen. Then she had to want to like truly be seen and get clear on like what parts of her she wanted to show. We had to get to know her ideal client. We had to get to know what sort of topics were what we wanted to teach people about her brand and to build that know, like, and trust and what we were going to specifically speak to. And then, yes, we looked at her hooks and her opening subject lines and some of that strategy. And of course, she's doing reels. Of course, we looked at trending audio. Of course, that's helpful. But I just don't know. I used trending audio on something for my podcast yesterday. I was like, oh, this is interesting. This one people did not like this one, whereas I've used them and they perform better. I just don't think that is, I think it's just it's missing what the strategy, those are tactics, not strategies. But of course, she used all of that. But what I think is maybe helpful to hear is then within the looking at her hooks and like the subject, same with like the opening line, first line of her content, and with this is helping a client with their emails for one of their launches. Some really great launch results recently. It's been very fun to see that, 'cause I've had a couple clients launching. But what we've also been looking at is how to then have those hooks, those opening lines, be very specific and very specific. This is why you have to know your ideal clients, to the language and to what we know her people want, what's going to speak to them, as opposed to a more generic, almost like ChatGPT sounding hook. She wasn't using ChatGPT for content, but I do think there's this way in which sometimes we can almost, it's like we can find the hook template, but it just sounds like a hook template. It sounds like, oh, this like came from someone's like freebie download. 5 steps to make $1 million. I don't know, whatever that is. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those will also perform well. But I think the magic for her in even her hook was both wanting to be seen in the vulnerability, but really knowing what to plug into those templates. Templates are great, not mad at them at all. But I think what makes a template like that work for you, if you have a hook template or a subject line template, I have one I give my clients I think it's very helpful, but it's knowing what words, it's knowing what to put into that is going to allow you to really take up space to be seen, to grab someone's attention. And some of that is, again, wanting to be seen, because usually it's the thing you're almost like, should I say this? Is it okay to say this? And a lot of times it's also knowing your people really well and the way they would phrase something or say something. I'll use myself as an example. I talk about money quite a bit, and that has been such an edge for me. I think it's so incredibly important. It's a conversation I want to have. I know. If you know me, you know I believe money is the language of business. I think it's also just, there's so much stigma around money. I think it's so important to speak to. But it was absolutely, and still can be, an edge for me to share what I make, how much money I make, what clients are making, all of the things there. And so talking about hiding in plain sight and wanting to be visible and seen, if we're talking about a subject line or a hook, and I know if I speak to financial results, that is something that is me taking up space and me being in ownership, and that's something that's important to my work and what I believe about my work, and also something I know is important to my potential clients. But I'm choosing not to put that in a hook, and instead saying something that alludes to those specific financial results, right? That's why I wanted to open this with the whole mindset piece and wanting to be seen, and how easy it is to be very sneaky and hide in plain sight, because I can write 2 hooks, 2 subject lines for emails that are implying the same message, but one is in ownership and one is, I think I have a post this week, and we'll see how it performs, but I think it's something like, actually, no, let me pull up, I'm going to give you an example. I'm just going to pull up my Instagram because this is a good example. We had a carousel last week, and it had more saves, I think, than most of the posts I've had. So it says 5 things I do, in parentheses, almost daily, to make consistent 25K to 40K cash months from one-on-one. So that is very specific. And I think what's helpful to hear there is it's specific. It's specific not just with the revenue numbers, but also 5 things. But it's also very specific in terms of what I vulnerably want you to know about me and my work and what's important, with those specific metrics and the consistent 25K to 40K cash months from one-on-one. Like, that's very specific. It's also specific to my audience, when I know they, like, the way I know they think and the language if I just said 5 things I do daily instead of almost daily, like, I know my audience wants to hear some of, like, the truth and, like, not the perfectionism, like glossy things, right? So there's a couple things happening in that subject line, and I think that's one of the reasons it got out of the last couple of weeks. I think it's what got the most reach out of any of my content, and it definitely got the most saves in the last 2 weeks, because that's something I pay attention to. And if I had said 5 things I do daily to be fully booked, that would have still been specific. That would have still been a good opening. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have performed as well. And I can tell you right now, if I wrote that, I either would have been lazy and phoning it in, and that's fine. Sometimes we do that. Sometimes we're just putting content out. Remember, it's okay to have, like, the decent content. Or I would have possibly been behind in plain sight if I didn't have other content speaking about those financial metrics, because I didn't want to own that, or I didn't want to take up space in that way, or I didn't want to make people feel badly, or I didn't insert all the noise there. So hopefully that's a helpful example of where we're talking about how the mindset shows up in the strategy, and then how that even shows up with something like that opening line or that hook. Just seeing if we have a question as I wrap this up. The other piece here that I think can just be helpful when you're thinking about those subject lines and openings, because I think this is, yes, we're talking a little content marketing strategy, but I do think visibility, like, that content is a part of your visibility strategy. I think they go together. What we talked about, what my client and I talked about, and I think what really helped her to land on this a little bit more when she was thinking about how to phrase those, I was inviting her to really think about meeting her people at where they're at in their head when she's speaking to them, and, like, what's the story in their head. I wish I could pull up her reel, but that would be obviously showing just like client confidentiality, but just because I could use the example there. But I think that's a lot of times I think when I'm looking at clients' content, it's sort of like they're just trying to, like, speak to the surface level topic, or or ChatGPT has done it, or it's almost like here are the like specific facts. And what I'm always looking for is either how are we bringing more of who you are, what you believe, what you think, your heart, your soul. Remember, people buy for emotional reasons, your strategic vulnerability, or how are we really getting into the minds of your people, meeting them where they're at, and really speaking to what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they're going through, as opposed to just like insert like top line service level thing. And so if you can play with that, that's going to make, I think, a really big difference. The other thing I think is just like this is, oops, I almost knocked this over. The other last tip I'll share here that we were talking about just in terms of the strategy here, and I think this is just really helpful with visibility when we're thinking about how are we getting visible and grabbing people's attention in a loud, crowded space, or if you're doing a talk, right? If you're offline and you're doing a talk, I think it's the same thing. People are distracted. We have to think about how are we grabbing people's attention and holding their attention. That is a part of visibility, which is why if you don't want to be seen and you're hiding in plain sight, that's going to be a tough game to win. But one of the things I think can be really helpful is to just keep thinking about how can you tease? How can you tease? How can you tease? How can you tease? And how can you tease out instead of giving it all away up front? And I'm all for giving away all the value like you want to. I think I demonstrate that and walk my talk around that quite a bit. But when you have that, when you're thinking about visibility strategy and you're thinking about grabbing people's attention, you're thinking about those subject lines and those hooks on the strategy side of things, think about a movie trailer. I always like to think back to my acting days because they have got the art of visibility down and the strategy of visibility down, and they are so good at that from a marketing perspective. I think Barbie is actually a really great movie to study because they crushed it in the box office, and a big part of that was because of their visibility and their marketing and their PR strategy, right? But PR's visibility was their visibility strategy, and I think they did a really great job of this in particular, which was teasing that movie out. They had a billboard in LA that was just pink, and I don't even know if it had words. I'm trying to remember if it said coming soon or if it said, but it wasn't like a bunch of words. It was, talk about teasing something out and talk about like bringing a little mystique and a little mystery. And so obviously you're not going to do the same thing online, but it's that same concept. It's sort of the opposite of what I've seen them do with a lot of movie trailers, if you've seen recently, where they almost give you like the whole movie away. My husband and I watched a bunch of movies over the Thanksgiving break, and we saw Saltburn and we saw The Holdovers, and I saw the Holdover movie trailer, and I said to my husband, if it weren't for the holidays and like just wanted to like go to the movie, there's a cute movie theater here, like wanted to go see the movie, I don't know that I would want to go see that movie because they kind of gave it all away in the trailer. Like I kind of already know what's going to happen. Like they just gave me too much, and I'm again here for giving it all away in terms of value, but if we're thinking about visibility strategy, marketing strategy, grabbing people's attention and asking them to get to know, like, and trust us and bringing them through the door, right? That's what a movie trailer is doing. If you show me everything, I'm like, well, why wouldn't I just wait till it's on TV? Like that did not entice me to like go find out what happens at the movie theater. It just happened to be we'd already seen another movie and we like who's in it, right? There were other reasons for it. So that's what I would be thinking about, again, with subject lines, with opening lines, with hooks, with what you're creating for your visibility strategy. And that is not hiding in plain sight. And that's why I wanted to bring that up specifically, because I think that can almost sound like, because we've been talking about hiding in plain sight. Well, if you're teasing something, if you're like leaving something to mystery, if you're not like sharing it all, like, isn't that hiding in plain sight? But hiding in plain sight is showing up and doing all the things, but not actually wanting to be seen, not actually wanting to be visible, not actually wanting to get the attention, sort of like not wanting to ruffle feathers or playing small, like not owning your brilliance in your work, right? It's showing up consistently while dimming your light at the same time. It is like backing yourself into a corner, making things very challenging. That's hiding in plain sight. This is strategically creating a little mystery, teasing people, right? It's what a movie trailer does. It's for those of you in romantic relationships, right? Like that's probably what you do a little bit as well when you're dating. That is strategic, and that is still taking up space. I think if we think about the Barbie billboard, that is very much taking up space. It is very much an ownership. It is very bold. It is just doing so in a way that entices us to want to know more, that is teasing us. This is not that it's sort of like laying breadcrumbs out to the Hansel and Gretel cottage, right? It's just giving those breadcrumbs so that we're like, I want to see the whole thing. So that's what I would be thinking about. It's like, how can you meet people in their head? How can you share more of the strategic vulnerability and what you really want people to know about you? Really think about how can you build that connection? What's the kind of connection you want to build with your brand persona, that know, like, and trust? And then it is not hiding in plain sight if you're being strategic with your opening hooks and just seeing like where are you pulling back in those opening hooks or subject lines or opening lines by almost like omitting some of the ownership that you want to share that would help you be visible or help teach people what you want them to know about you. And then where are you over telling everyone all of the things where you're not creating that fun, sexy tease that's going to bring people to the next step. I hope this was valuable for you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. Just checking. I don't have any questions. Fun conversation for me and also fun for my client. I think those are just fun results as well to see, because I think something like that is also, like I said, it's not like that now blew up her business necessarily, but I think it's a lot of evidence for what she's doing well and how much she shifted. But I think it's also nice for everyone to hear. I think what's cool, we hear so much, and this might be the last thought I'll close out on. I think we hear so much right now, and I know I talk about this, how saturated it is, how crowded it is online. It's a buyer's market, right? All of these things, and I think that can almost make it seem like, what's the point? No one's paying attention online. There's not room for anyone new. And so I also wanted to share these metrics because I think it's also helpful to hear. I think she has an audience of maybe just under 300 people, right? You can, there's still room for everyone online. There's still room to use social media and have it get you very visible, and to have social media be the vehicle in which you're building your business and making a lot of money and building an audience and building those relationships. So I hope you'll take that away from this conversation as well. I love you all so much. Don't forget, I will pick a winner for our giveaway. If you're interested in a coaching intensive, I will drop a discovery call link or link for a mini coaching session for more of a chemistry test. Those are, again, a really great way to either close out the year or set yourself up for next year. But I do have one available in December. Really great way for us to drill in your strategy so you can set yourself up and know exactly what to focus on, whether that's your marketing strategy or with your offer, if you're changing your offer up for the new year, or to increase your conversions on the back end of your business. I literally just had someone do one of these and make, I think, double her investment back within a week, and I mean, she'll continue to make far more money after that. But I think it is a steal of an investment, but I think they're a really great way to set yourself up for the new year, and a great way to see if you do want to consider working together long term, and to see what it feels like without making that huge first step into the longer term partnership container. So I will drop a link for that if you're interested. I would love to connect with you. I love getting to do those. And then I'll be back next week. We've got 2 live streams, and then we're off until the new year, which is crazy to me. So got a fun conversation. Actually got 2 really fun conversations to close the new year out, and some fun giveaways. So I will look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you for being here. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.